Today, we're asking the question that lots of dealers ask, is it worth investing in a new DMS? What's the ROI of the new DMS system? A DMS system in itself does not sell things. Where are the ROIs coming from and how does that work? Is that most dealers, when they think about DMSs, think about the cost. They know they need one, but it's not seen as an opportunity to make their business better. And I think that's the key mindset problem that most dealers need to get away from. Welcome to Daily Tech Talk, where we discuss how technology is transforming car and motorhome dealerships. This podcast is sponsored by DMS Navigator, the dealer management system that helps dealers become more efficient, deliver better customer service, and become more profitable. And also by Miles Companion, the app that helps dealers retain customers, improve lifetime profitability, and keep them coming back. Today, we're asking the question that lots of dealers ask very quietly. Is it worth investing in a new DMS system? What's the ROI of the new DMS system? And I think more importantly, I think the question really to ask is, where is the ROI in buying a DMS system? A DMS system in itself does not sell things. Therefore, we can't say that it is generating an ROI directly in that way. So where are the ROIs coming from? And how does that work? The key things about a DMS is it should help you become more efficient. It should help you to deliver better customer service, and it should help you manage your business better. All of those translate ultimately into better profitability. And that's where the ROI comes from. The key problem. The problem here is that most dealers, when they think about DMSs, think about the cost. They see a DMS as being a cost to the business. They know they need one, but it's not seen as an opportunity to make their business better. And I think that's the key mindset problem that most dealers need to get away from. They need to think more positively about how a DMS can actually improve their business. The improvements, where can they come from, and where do they translate down ultimately to the bottom line? I think the key item in most DMS systems is implementing it correctly, becoming embedded in the business. Your business processes need to align with your DMS process. So that systems within the business and the way you work within the business flows with your DMS system. If you were thinking about your business process, and if you've got in your business process a specific bit where it says, and now go and update the DMS, that's your first alarm bell that something is going wrong. It's not integrated. It's something you have to do in addition to the business process you've got together, and maybe the DMS is not working for you correctly. Where you see dealers really make the benefit is where a business process starts with go to your DMS system and start a process. And that should then lead you through the process. It should make life easier for the person using it. And that gets a massive amount of efficiency. You also get reproducibility. You know that if something is done consistently using a certain way, you know that it's going to be better. You know that customers are going to feel the benefit of that, and you're not going to have different people in the business doing the same task in different ways. And that comes back in dividends later on. If you were to buy a new dealership or open a new site or employ new staff, if you've got a process where the DMS is driving that process, training them on the DMS, training them on the process becomes that much easier, and new members of staff and new locations become much easier to set up. It becomes more scalable for you. And that ultimately will continue to build dividends all the way through. The time saving by having a good DMS system shouldn't be underestimated. By making information easier to get to. I'll give you some examples of that. Let's think about a sales exec sat at his desk. He's got a car that's being delivered 2 or 3 days' time. He wants to know that that car is going to be prepped, ready for handover, because he doesn't want the customer turning up and then the car not being ready. Now, if your sales exec has to get up out of his chair, walk across the showroom and go and stand at service reception. And most business service receptions, they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs. He will have to wait for somebody to become available. He will then ask them the question, is my car ready? They will have to, whatever they're doing, stop doing and go and look in the system or whatever they're using to find, is that car going to be ready? What you've done is you've wasted a lot of time, not just for the sales exec, but also for the service advisor who could be doing something else. A good DMS system in that scenario should give that information to the sales exec at his fingertips. And that's one of the reasons why a separate, independent, standalone CRM system that isn't integrated with the DMS is not always the best idea, because you lose in that. The sales exec is using the CRM, has zero visibility of anything beyond that. If he can get into the DMS, go into the deal and go, what's the workshop status? Perhaps even see that in there. He can save himself that trip and get that information much, much quicker. And also he has more confidence in the information that he's getting, because he knows that he's seeing the information that is in there. And he's also not interrupted the service advisor. So the service advisor is also becoming more efficient. You can look at your business, look at a dealership, and go through a lot of your business processes where you see that happening all the time. If I'll get in some more examples. A technician who has to come and ask a service advisor a question, who walks over, they're not on the car anymore, they're standing, they're waiting for the advisor to become available, they'll ask a question, they've interrupted what the advisor is going to be doing next, they get the answer, and then they walk back to the car to carry on work. That's horrifically inefficient. It may only be a couple of minutes, but a couple of minutes taken 2 or 3 times a day, 5 times a day, every day of the week, soon adds up. And time literally costs money. So, when we're looking at our DMS and we're looking at the benefits we can get, they're the real key things. The raw ability of a DMS system to actually do the job, to be able to take you from A to B, to sell a part, to book a customer into the workshop, to raise a sales order, to convert that sales order to an invoice, the quickness, the performance of that is also coming straight back. The quicker it is to do, the easier it is to do, it's going to be done more successfully, more consistently, and it's going to save you time. That time can be redeployed into delivering customer service, into making that upsell. If you go to, again, back to service, a lot of service advisors, is argued quite a lot, don't do enough upsell. And the problem you see, if you actually go and watch them work, is they don't have enough time to do that upsell. They're spending too much of their time doing basic tasks, just doing the day-to-day admin of a service department, to not be able to use that time to correctly deploy upsell where it's needed. If you can make that time less, make them more efficient at doing the things that they do day to day, they have more time available to spend more time talking to customers, and that directly will sell more. It'll sell more hours, it'll sell more parts, it'll make you more profit as well. You can apply exactly the same in the sales department, exactly the same way, right through the business. One of the other key areas that a DMS system should be working for you is getting information quickly to people right through the business. We already talked about at the atomic level, where a sales exec, for example, is seeing the status of a workshop job, but you'll see that all the way through workshops, seeing whether parts are in stock, all the way there. But another key area is at the next level up. A service manager or a sales manager, or an accountant, somebody in finance, being able to very, very quickly see what's happening in the dealership now. And most dealers are quite good at doing things like management reporting on a monthly basis. So they'll report back to their managers and to the business owners, maybe in the second or third week of a month, about how last month went. But last month's gone. We can't affect that. A good DMS should be given information now. What's the position today? What technicians are not working now? What's the efficiency on work that's being done now. What have we sold today? What have we done month to date? Now, live, changing. We should have live dashboards. That information should be driven by the DMS. It's got to be done that way. All of that, to be able to do that, needs consistency. It's no good seeing information that isn't live, that isn't being used consistently all the way through. To get that, you've got to make sure you start right at the beginning with your DMS. It's got to be implemented correctly. It's got to be trained correctly. It's got to be integrated with your business processes, to make sure that you're doing the jobs in sympathy with the DMS. Not necessarily driven in the way the DMS wants to work, but there's no point in having a business process that doesn't work in line with your DMS system. It needs to run in sympathy. They need to run in harmony. And if you can do that, you'll get that consistency of information, that consistency of feedback as well. And you will get that. One of the final things, and I think people forget about this quite a lot when we talk about DMS, we talk about systems, a dealer management system, as people think about systems as being processes, a way of doing things. But one of the key areas that we forget about is data. A good DMS should centralize all your core data. We think about financial data. A good DMS should have its own finance system. It'll give you much, much better, much more granular information about how the business is processing financially. But also customer data. Having the DMS system should be the source of truth for customer data, and all your customer data should be there. You should be able to then leverage that and use that much better. Which customers are due their service next month? That's an easy one. Should we be sending out service reminders? That's another easy one. How can we do that? We need that data in there. And while we're talking about that, we talk about a DMS. The DMS doesn't stop at the border of the dealership, doesn't stop with your people. Taking that exact example, we should be able to have an automation that sends emails to customers to tell them their car is due for a service. What's the call to action on that email? Ring the dealership? That's not necessarily a great call to action, because most people will read their emails in the evening when the dealership isn't open and you can't ring them anyway. So when do they call? They call at 8:30, 9 o'clock the next morning. And for most dealers, what's the worst time that somebody could be calling you? At 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning, when all the customers are turning up and the service advisors are starting to prepare their jobs for the day. That's not a great time. Your customers will not get the best customer service. So a DMS system should extend, the call to action on that email shouldn't be call. They're sitting there in the evening on an email, click to book in. That click to book in should translate straight the way through into a pre-prepared job card in the DMS system. It shouldn't come in as an email hoping that a service advisor reads that the same day it comes in and translates that manually into a job card. Integrating that into the outside world has got to be the way forward. And again, another efficiency saving right the way through the business. We can see it everywhere. If you take a advertising vehicle stock, if you look at most dealers, they are entering their stock multiple times and they're maintaining that multiple times. They'll add it into their DMS system. They might manually then take the photo somewhere else. They might manually then create the advert in online platforms, Auto Trader, Car Gurus, whatever. If they change a price on the DMS system, they have to change that elsewhere as well. Worse, the DMS system has got different information to the website. That's horrific. And again, that should all be automated. If you can then take that vehicle, which is always going to be added into the DMS system anyway, and get the advert prepared at that point. So all you've got to do is tick a box and go advertise it. The efficiency there is huge. The adverts will appear online quicker because they haven't got to be prepared separately. That will then reduce the days to sell for every car because the adverts are in there quicker. I see so many dealers where, maybe on a Thursday or a Friday, the sales manager is sitting down and advertising vehicles. Those vehicles may have come in on ready for sale Monday, Tuesday. We've lost 2 or 3 or 4 days waiting for that period. And that could be reduced significantly in there. So really to summarize, how do dealers see much better ROI from their DMS investment from others? Obviously, the first one, which I've not really discussed today because we've had that in our previous podcast, is it's got to be the right DMS. I know from my day job, for those that don't know, I write, author, sell, train DMS systems. I have a company, DMS Navigator, that does that. We know where all those efficiencies are and how to deliver them. But do all our customers make all those benefits? Not all of them. A lot of them won't make all those benefits. And there's several reasons for that. The first one is, of course, got to be implemented right. You've got to know what you want to achieve. You've got to train that. You've got to make sure that you have actually achieved that and continue to review where you are. Implementing a DMS system shouldn't be done just on the day it's installed. That's the start of a process. You should review that at the end of the month, the end of 3 months, into 6 months, continuously. Your business is changing. Your DMS system should also be changing. Where can you see more and more benefit? What can we do today that makes our business more efficient next month or the month after? It never stops, and it should never stop. It shouldn't be something we just look at once every 5 years and think, how can I improve things? And at that point, people tend to think, I should be changing my DMS. And yes, maybe they should. And that's possibly a good thing they should be doing. And maybe they should be looking at least at a new DMS system. But more to the point, you've lost 5 years if you've done that in just once every 5 years. You should be doing this consistently, regularly. How can I improve what I do? What can I do better? And how can I do that? And the dealers that really do that will continue to rise up that little staircase of efficiency, where next month's efficiency, next month's customer service, and next month's profitability is improved because they are running better. And let's think about something else. Many DMS purchases I would describe as a distress purchase. I know from people coming to me, they're coming to buy a new DMS because they have a problem. Their profitability's dropped. They're not selling enough cars. It's not doing something for them. The problem you have quite often is the DMS may be part of that problem, but it's not always the whole problem. Changing a DMS, putting a new DMS system in, will not in itself solve fundamental problems in the dealership. If anything, quite often it will make them worse because it highlights them more. You need to make sure that you're looking at the whole business. Why is that happening? What is the business process? What are the personnel? How do we work? Where are the fundamental failures in that? And it may well be that changing the DMS system is part of the solution, but it's very rarely the whole solution. Ultimately, DMS systems do not in themselves create a return on investment. It's what you do with them and how you leverage those systems and use them that does. So to summarize, the real ROI isn't shown on a spreadsheet of a DMS. You have to think about time taken, efficiency, how well you use it, how much time that gives you left over to talk to customers. How does that integrate with third-party systems that stop you rekeying and aid even further to that efficiency? They're the things you should be measuring. And those that do that will see much more multiples of ROI, 5 times, 10 times ROI, much more than other dealers do. Thanks for listening to Dealer Tech Talk. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. We also provide, with a lot of these podcasts, and this one included, some guides that help you to go through the subject we've talked about. They can be downloaded from www.dealertechtalk.uk/guides. Dealer Tech Talk is sponsored by DMS Navigator and Miles Companion. Thanks for listening. Until next time.